it was funny. I was looking up Mental Health Awareness Month. And so it's, okay, so there's Mental Health Awareness Month, which is May, okay? Now, January is Mental Wellness Month. Do we want to just...
And the difference? Sure, let's dive into that. What is the difference?
I have no idea what the difference is. So to me, like, I guess...
I mean, let's go. First reactions right now. Mental wellness would be...
staying mentally healthy. Just like good practices.
Okay, I would agree. That's kind of what I was thinking. But
Okay.
mental health, like exercises.
Right.
Playing like Sudoku or something more challenging than freaking Candy Crush.
The
and
ads
then
for those things get almost like near pornographic. It's bad. Where I'm like, what on earth? I got rid of my solitaire because it kept giving me like pornographic ads. I was like, what in the actual heck is this?
I've never had that, but I also don't play very many games on phones.
I
Games
don't
are meant
either.
to be at a keyboard and mouse or a controller. I firmly believe that.
I don't either, but I like to play solitaire. Like that's the one game that I had on my phone. One game, solitaire. That was it. And then they just kept giving me pornographic ads. I'm like, I don't want to keep seeing this.
I don't think I've ever had that. I mean, worst I've maybe get is like underwear ads, but...
No, I get more than underwear ads. Okay, so you said Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah, so taking care of your health mentally. Mental Health Awareness Month, May, is probably for people that struggle
with like, mental
illness. Yeah, that's probably the distinction. I bet that's what we're going to find out.
Yeah, I don't actually know what the difference is, so we can actually look it up. But what is the difference between Mental Health Awareness Month and mental... what is it again? I don't remember. Why do they have to make it so weird? Okay. I got it now. Hang on. Mental awareness. Hang on. What was it again? Wellness. Mental wellness. Come on, Jordan. Use your memory. Okay. There is no clear answer. There's no answer. Okay.
Right. How about you look up mental wellness, and I'll look up mental health awareness.
Great. Okay. So
and
mental health.
See if we can come up with a reason.
Mental Wellness Month, January, meaning. Okay, so here is mental wellness defined. The World Health Organization defines mental wellness as a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So what does Mental Health Awareness Month, what did you get for that?
First result off of Google is each year millions of Americans face the reality of living with a mental illness. So I think that will pretty much sum it up for you. It's mental wellness versus mental illness. They're just being nice about the terms when they say mental health awareness. Great.
So today we're going to just talk about mental health. That's it. That's what we're going to talk about because I thought that Mental Health Awareness Month was not May. I thought it was January. So basically, though, here's the moral of the story. Though there's too many awareness months for everything. There's too many awareness months. That is the conclusion that I've drawn from this. Maybe we
can only have 12.
Yeah, they can. It's too much. It's too much. But
all right. So if we're going to talk about mental wellness,
yes,
since it's January. So you've given up solitaire.
I have given up solitaire. I gave up solitaire because I was getting pornographic ads when I wanted to play. And I didn't want to play. So here's the thing for me. When I'm playing a game, I just want to turn off the rest of the world, right? I just want to play my game. I don't need these types of like mental distractions that make me think about, wow, this is pornographic, or wow, what the heck is this doing here? Like, to me, it should be a time of relaxation. You
should put your phone in airplane mode then.
Wow.
That might actually cut off the ads as well. Maybe not.
Okay.
Because some apps will cache the ads in there, but typically, in order for them to be making money off of showing an ad, they need to be able to show that an ad was viewed by the person. So airplane mode is one way to, two birds, one stone.
That's a good tip. I didn't think about that. Well, look, we've made some progress here. But I guess we'll talk about mental wellness, but I actually think it is an important topic. I don't think it's important in the way that maybe the left might make it out to be, in regards to we need to medicate everything and everyone.
Oh, it's a Band-Aid.
Yeah. I think in some cases it's definitely a Band-Aid. In most cases, we wrote an article, not we, but Resident Skeptics. We wrote an article. And I know you and I actually have some differing opinions on this because we do and we don't agree on everything. But in this article, I made the case that essentially America is over-medicated, and I based this off of a study that came out that talked about that basically there's this idea of this like chemical imbalance with like general depression and anxiety. It doesn't exist essentially in some cases. This is not necessarily talking about, schizophrenia or bipolar disorder or things like that. I think you're talking about like more generalized illnesses, because you think about, and I'm just going to talk and then, give me your thoughts here, but you have generalized anxiety, right? And then you have major depression that can happen. And so one of the first things, and the one thing I agree with Jim Carrey on is like, listen, you got to look at the other stuff that you're doing in your life. Are you eating well? And by eating well, like, are you giving your body the vitamins, nutrients, and the antioxidants that it needs? That's the first thing. Mm-hmm. Are you actually exercising? You're not exercising, that helps. It gets your endorphins going. Also strengthens your body. Who knew? And so he's like, I certainly think these things are true, that there can be real mental health issues, but I don't necessarily think that it is a medication issue all the time.
Medication issue as in
if someone
they're not getting it,
like they need to have medication.
Yeah.
That's my issue, because hear me out, and I'm not necessarily, I'm giving this out as a theory. I think it's a good theory. I don't think it requires too much medical papers, although I'm sure we can find plenty of them if we literally Google searched it now. I don't think it would be a problem to find. But we have a lot of teenagers. How much time do you think they spend on their phone?
I think I just saw that recently, and it was probably 8 to 10 hours a day.
All right. How much time does the average teenager spend on social media? So this is according to the New York Times. On average, daily screen use went up among tweens, which tweens is defined as 8 to 12, to 5 hours and 33 minutes from 4 hours and 44 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then for ages 13 to 18, it went from 8 hours and 39 minutes from 7 hours and 22 minutes.
So it went down a little bit for that group.
No, I think they both go up. So they start from...
No, sorry, I thought you said 8 hours to 7.
No, you're good. So it was, let me see here, to 5 hours, from 4 hours and 44 minutes. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, for the tweens, right?
That's for the tweens. And then for ages 13 to 18, it went from 8 hours and 39 minutes from 7 hours and 22 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Went up to 8 hours from 7. Yeah.
Right. So this is the average amount of time that a tween or teenager, and I'm going to imagine, honestly, that for adults it's about the same. My guess is going to be 6 hours because they do work jobs.
Yeah, depending on the job, it'll probably be more than 6 hours. Yeah. I know my job has me in front of a screen for longer than that.
Right. But if we're talking about, this is specifically talking about social media use. So that's only one part of the technology. And so if we have a lot of these, tweens and teenagers that are on their social media, they're comparing themselves to everybody else. They're getting you're getting like a flood of different ideas and different opinions and different ideologies. Incredibly confusing. It would make sense that this would affect the mental health of our young people. And this was written in March of 2022. So this is, and I think that is important because we are looking at this post-pandemic, right? Mm-hmm. So when we're at home, guess what you're probably doing most of the time is you're watching some TV or you're in front of a screen. Media. Right. And so this is concerning. So why wouldn't we expect the mental health of tweens and teenagers, and yes, even adults, to decline over time, and to think, well, maybe they need anxiety medication, or maybe they need something to help with their major depression or whatever it is that they have.
So then would you be saying, or I guess where I'm trying to get the focus in on it is, are you looking more at the fact that they're just in front of a screen in general, or the content they're viewing on the screen?
Yes. Yes. The answer is yes. I'm also looking at the reason why we have people looking at screens. Okay. So for example, we look at a teenager, a tween or a teenager. We're looking at them and we're asking, why are they on their phone this much? What's happening? Is it that they're being allowed by their parents to? Because at the ages of 8 to 12, I would imagine you have more jurisdiction over what your child is doing than supposed to 18, right? So the question is, why are they on there? How are things in the home? Is there a divorce? Is there drug use, or is it a marriage or but a bad marriage? Is it emotionally distant household? Is it an abusive household? Again, just things to ask. Sometimes it can be a completely normal household, but the parents are neglectful, or they just let their kids get on social media as much as they want. The other thing that I'm asking questions about is, what type of content are they taking in? Imagine you're a teenager. You have issues with your parents, right? You don't agree with them on everything. And you find a bunch of people that can validate how you feel or find another avenue to let out how you're feeling. That's also something that I'm looking at. And so I think also, if you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, and I think this is particularly true for women, because we have to remember something about social media. And I'm a photographer as well. I've been doing it for 8 years, so I'm intimately aware with the amount of Photoshop that's happening. I'm aware of the Facetune. I'm aware of the angles. I know how this goes. And so you have a bunch of young girls who are 12 or 13 years old. Okay, they are girls. Like, they're developing. They are in the most awkward stage of life to ever be. All right, I know this because I did it, and guys are too. Right? Guys are too. So this isn't just a girl issue, but I think you'd have to let me know what you think about this, because I'm not a male, about how comparison affects men. But they're comparing themselves to these photoshopped women. Of course they're going to feel insecure. Of course they're going to have anxiety. That's a ton of content to be consuming for an average of about 5 to 8 hours a day. That's a lot of comparison. That's a lot of mental overload for someone to take on. So why would it necessarily surprise us if a girl is depressed about the way that she looks, or has a lot of social anxiety? Because not only do you have to compete with people in real life, but it's more important that you compete with them online. Because that's become a huge part of social life, where it's like, oh, I got to see, was with my friends today. And that's almost, sometimes you wonder, are they only hanging out just for the gram? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, why are they doing this? Like, could they hang out without posting it on social media? Some people can, for sure. Yeah. Plenty of people do it. But I think when you're that insecure, when you're that young, when you're trying to figure all that out, you can get very caught up in the popularity game. And then we kind of see there being just this mental downward spiral that happens.
Yeah, I think you're focusing on a fraction of it. I don't think that these kids are spending, at least most of them are not spending 8 hours a day purely looking at other people and comparing themselves and being upset with, however they are trying to compete. And I guess to your point about asking me as a guy how I see other people online is, one, it's funny because I'm a very competitive person. I love competing, even if it's something stupid and ridiculous. I grew up doing that with my siblings to my parents' dismay.
You should probably beat them all.
Most things.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was mainly the age factor.
Well, yeah, because you're the oldest one.
The age and the experience and the skill factor. Today it'd be a harder thing.
Sure.
But I don't know. For me, I don't think I've ever sat and gazed at a picture and been like, oh man, like I look horrible. If anything, it's more like admiration. Cool. Like I'd like to look like that someday. if I could do that. And I've learned with certain body types, you can't do that. And I mean, maybe I'm different than others, but I've definitely come into a place of accepting what I can and can't accomplish. And having a six pack, for instance, is not one of those things that I think my body is ever going to do. I will not starve myself to the point for those muscles to show. I'd rather just have a strong abdomen and stomach. And if it's like you look at some of the older, like historic strongmen or Vikings or whatever, or even today, modern times, you look at the strongmen who can outlift any Olympian or any steroid junkie out there. They do not have six packs. Mm-hmm. They have barrel chests, barrel bellies, but that is probably one of the strongest muscles out there.
Yeah.
I guess for me, a lot of it turns more into admiration or eye rolls is kind of the two. There's probably the range. I don't care.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I don't feel the need to compete in social media. Maybe I did once upon a time ago, but it was never my thing. Like I never cared enough to post a bunch. If you checked my Instagram, like I've posted like 2 or 3 times in the past 3 years.
Yeah.
It's not, and even Facebook, I have not done, like until Resident Skeptic stuff came around, I didn't post or share. If there's anything new on my feed, it's because somebody tagged me in it.
Right, which is normally me.
Yeah, normally you.
Right.
Normally you and like 2 or 3 other people that I can think of.
Right. Your parents and yeah.
And between my parents, it's definitely my mom. My dad, he'll just send me stuff in a direct message. He doesn't really post or tag me in things.
Which I prefer that. Like you're going to send something to someone, just like send it to them personally.
Yeah, I've never found the need to make it all public to everybody. But I realize that my mindset on this may not match up with a lot of other people.
I think it's important though, because I think you have a good mindset where I can say with 100% certainty that I spend more time on social media than you do. One, I run.
Oh, we could pull up comparisons on our phone.
Yeah, that would be scary. We can't.
Let's do that. Let's get there and see.
Where would it be on my phone?
Yeah, it's been a little while since I looked at this, so hang on. They have a digital well-being.
That's what I'm
settings,
looking for.
And then I think there's a bar graph.
That's what I'm looking for.
That'll show screen time of your top.
Right. And I don't know.
Your top apps.
Where to find it.
Go to your settings and then scroll down till you see a green app with digital well-being.
Hang on. Yeah, I know how to do that now. Hang on. There we go.
Now, what I've got to try and figure out is how to sort this a little bit better. Because my 3 top apps this week is YouTube with about 14 hours and 50 minutes, which is not a surprise. But then because of driving, it's Google Maps.
Okay, no, hang on. Okay, so it's really similar. Okay, so I think the highest is between Google Maps and Instagram, and my third is Spotify because I'm driving while I'm driving. I'm listening to music while I'm driving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you can pick a day. Let me see your screen there. Oh, yours looks different than mine. You have a freaking pie chart. Okay, back up one screen. Oh, that's your first screen? That's your intro screen?
Yeah, no, that's my intro screen. Okay, here we go.
Because you've got a pixel. All right. So which day is that? Is that today specifically?
Yeah, that's today. But I can look at like Saturday. Okay, so Saturday.
Let's pick what a normal day looks like to us.
Okay. I'm gonna pick a normal day.
So you want to go to Monday last week? I don't think that was a holiday, or was it a holiday? I don't think so.
I can do Monday.
That would be what day is that actually?
That's January 2nd.
No, it was not. Today's the 16th.
Oh, well then I'm just
9th.
Idiot. 9th? I got it.
You went way too far back.
I know, I did. Okay, so I spent an hour and 43 minutes on Instagram.
Okay.
I spent 16 minutes on YouTube and then 15 minutes on Messenger.
Mm-hmm. So I had 2 hours and 14 minutes on YouTube, 47 minutes on Facebook, and then after that it turns into work stuff.
Yeah, which makes sense because men typically like YouTube a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a woman, women tend to be on Instagram more. So
yeah, I find Instagram infinitely boring. I have no use for it.
Yeah.
I hate the structure of it. I don't care about pictures. I
more...
don't care about other people's lives, I guess.
Well, I'll care about my life maybe, but you don't need Instagram to care about my life, so it's fine. But
I don't need to see everything that everybody's doing. And honestly, it kind of depends on the content they put up. I'm far more likely to follow somebody if they're posting something about like going rock climbing or doing stuff. If they are just posting things, I think it has more of an interest thing for me.
Yeah.
And I am just not interested in people going out with their friends. I'm not interested in people sharing pictures of their food unless they're going to tell me where to find it and it's somewhere that I can get to it. And I guess the other part is you got to be looking for it. So I think for me, it is an interest thing, and I'm not interested.
Which I think one that's personality on your end, and I think it's how you grew up as well. But I think for most people, I don't think they have the same mindset as you. I really don't.
I don't think so.
Because I think that you're more an outlier in some areas. Now, with the YouTube thing, that you're not. You fit right into the stereotype.
Yeah, and YouTube is mostly male users from what I've heard, what I've read. Right. I will say I am playing an interesting experiment with myself as far as social media goes, because one of my favorite things is YouTube Shorts. It's usually like the best little bit of content that you can get in under 60 seconds.
Which is like the same thing as Instagram Reels and TikTok.
I'm more interested in movies and other things than whatever Instagram algorithm will give me. Also, I got off of Instagram because it would feed me pornographic material.
Yeah, and I think
part of it's just because I'm a guy. Even when I went and selected that I didn't want like targeted suggestions and took that off, I still got it. Well, so I just took it off.
Here's the issue is that Instagram is soft porn in itself, where like it's a bunch of women in bikinis and lingerie, and like, so even if you put that filter on, your Instagram, it doesn't matter because people are wearing inappropriate stuff all the time. And but that goes into my point though, is that when you see those type of images as a man, and also, you're a married man, you don't really want to be looking at those things anyway. But if you are a woman and you're looking at all these other women, there's a type of jealousy and a want and a desire. I think that's the difference between...
So it's less of an admiration effect for you and more of a comparison.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think women... I don't know if necessarily women struggle more with comparison. I think men and women compare different things. For example, I think women compare looks much more than we compare career success with women. I think it's much more common. I think for men, there's a huge career competition. Like, I imagine you'd feel much worse about yourself, like, oh, this person has this better job than I do, and you're wondering about your career path, and then now that could also. I guess it
depends on how close in range they are.
It would depend, right?
With age, skills, even just the type of work we do,
right,
and whatever pay range they might be in. If somebody else was in a similar pay range to me and they were making 2-3 times my amount, yeah, I could find myself being jealous. Right. But like, I can look around and find. Like guys that make more than me is a dime a dozen. That's not hard to do.
Yeah.
I don't even have to get into like the superstars of America to find those people. It's easy to find somebody that has a higher income than me. And I don't know that I care. I think maybe I would care more if they're doing things that I wish I could do.
Yeah.
Like seeing people that are able to go out on, like let's take a trip to a winter state or a winter country, and we're going to go on a backcountry ski trip. That sounds awesome. I wish I could do that. And it's like, if I can do that, it's probably going to be like just a couple times in a lifetime at best. And that's assuming I don't do anything else big like that. Right. So I guess, there with an income, there could be more of a comparison or a jealousy, but at the same time, there's still an admiration. And it's just like, that's awesome. Like, you guys got there. You probably deserve it. I don't know. Maybe you don't, but.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. And I think it's going to vary from man to man. Like, for you, I think you're more looking at your specific job type and only comparing in that bracket. I think that there are men that go outside of that bracket, but I think that's just going to depend on the man. Just like I think it's going to depend on the woman with comparison as well of what type. Like, for example, this is a good example. Fitness, okay? So women that are really into fitness, For them, like, yes, they want the six pack, but it really is about like the muscle shape and definition. They're not going to be quite as jealous as just like a girl that's really skinny, just skinny, naturally small. For them, that's not really going to necessarily be a comparison point. Why? Because it's not in their brackets. Like, honestly, to a certain extent, they probably wouldn't want that. They're like, to me, that's my before picture, right? You're just like, I want the muscles, and it's okay if I lose the six pack. So, because it's the same thing with men too. Like for women, that they get larger on the bottom and larger on the top. Well, there's more fat there as well as muscle. So guess what's not going to be defined? The abdomen, right? And it makes sense. And honestly, women shouldn't have super chiseled abs, all right? It shouldn't happen. Well, one, we need the fat, guys. We need the fat. It's actually important. And so I think that's kind of a little bit of the difference. So there's going to be some varying between men, varying between women. But I think the way that women compare is, I think, mostly can be outward. That doesn't mean women don't compare careers, because I've definitely done that. But it doesn't, I'm looking at how often it occurs, and it doesn't occur quite as often as, scrolling Instagram. And because you're right, it is just pictures. It's pictures of you, or you in your bikini or your crop top or anything like that. So what I'm saying is, for women, imagine if you're getting fed hundreds, even thousands of images like that a day, and imagine how that would make you feel at the end of the day, even if it's just for 1 hour a day. But in this case, it's about, let's say at the minimum, it's 4 hours a day, right? I would imagine that would cause some level of anxiety and depression, especially if you feel like that is an unattainable goal. And if you do try to attain that goal, you could run into some eating disorder issues or unhealthy habits to try to gain that physique. I agree with you, though, that I'm only looking at one fraction of the issue, for sure. However, I do think that is a significant fraction. And I think that social media can turn into an escape for kids that don't have a great family life. It doesn't need to even be anything as drastic as divorce. Yeah,
but looking for an escape is not something that's like that has always been a thing. Pre-existing electronics, you want to escape, you read a book. You want to escape, you go for a hike, you go out into the wilderness. You want to get away. It was video games for a while. That's what I grew up with, the media hounding on us, video games are evil, this and that. And then social media rolls around, and they don't have a problem with it for the most part. But people are always looking for some sort of escapism, and I guess one of the things you'd have to factor in is like what amount is healthy, if any. No, that's a good. No, and then what are you using to escape? And I think that second question is important: is what exactly are you using, right? Because not all books are good. No, some books could also be not good. But no, I think here's what I would say. I think is the difference between reading or another type of escapism is, I think you could escape video games, reading. People really love sports. That's a thing. That wasn't a thing for me, but that's fine. Dance, music, things like that. But that's like a skill that you start cultivating. Video games, I would say, I don't know, I think it takes a little bit of skill. I don't love video games, but I do think they take some skill. It will depend on the game. Because games have probably more genres than movies at this point. You know that realm way better than I do. There's games that are just pretty run-of-the-mill. You run and shoot, and it's just chaos, and I think those take the least. There's other ones that are maybe a bit more lifelike to soldiers that take a lot more strategy and cooperation with friends. You have puzzle games that are out there like Portal and other ones. And I'm not like the biggest and most thorough gamer out there. I know that I'm more in that world than you are. Right. But yeah, the genres that are out there, you can find games that make you think really hard and really question. Like you really have to work at it, or you really need to communicate with a teammate. And I think those ones are more beneficial than the ones that maybe isolate you. But there's other ones that have a really good story, and I would say you're more involved in a good movie. Just because there's a lot more to it. You're directly involved as a character in the game. So yeah, I think a lot of it's going to come down to content. And I mentioned earlier that I'm kind of playing around with an experiment with myself. Is that one thing I've kind of found is I feel like my attention, my time of attention has really shortened. That almost makes me feel ADD, if you will. Like I cannot focus on something for more than like 10 to 15 minutes. And I'm like, I can't. And typically the reaction is to get on YouTube Shorts or something. So I have, for the last week and a half or so, have been making sure that I stay away from YouTube Shorts, and I make myself, if I'm going to take a break, I have to watch something that's between 5 and 15 minutes and get through the whole video. And I'm trying to see if it readjusts my focus.
How long have you been doing that for?
Probably a week and a half.
And how do you feel?
I've noticed some improvement, but it feels too early to tell at this point. Like there's not enough improvement or enough time of no improvements to make a decision on that. Okay. But that one would probably be my worst, because it's like, okay, 60 seconds or less is YouTube Shorts. So that's about all you have time for before you move to the next thing. And then the next thing and the next thing. And, 60 seconds and 10 minutes, you can go over more than 10 different types of content. You could be jumping movies, comedians, shows, how to do this, how to cook this. Like there's just a lot of information that you can get at once, but it's not very thorough information.
Yeah.
So when you have to tackle a project that takes a lot more time and thinking, I had to keep thinking in my head. It was bothering me that it was taking well, rather my focus was just so minimal. I'm like, I have to mess with this. So I'll keep you updated on that. But I'm interested to see how it goes, because that is like the one thing of social media that's around. Facebook, I get on it, and it's so funny that I even had 45 minutes worth of Facebook, because I get bored scrolling pretty quick.
Yeah.
So, and there it's probably videos, and it's probably the same thing.
Yeah,
as
like
YouTube. So I'm stopping myself from watching short videos, going back to more long form stuff that has to keep my attention.
Yeah, I mean, then I think it's time to listen to a Jordan B. Peterson podcast.
That's a big that's a big endeavor.
It is. I don't listen to all of his, but I've listened to a couple in there, and they're pretty good. But I think you bring up a good point about the idea of the type of content, where like even like take YouTube Shorts or you take Instagram. Those are two forms of short content, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, so those are the two things that they have.
All of them are short form content at this point. They're all gearing towards that.
Right. Well,
Instagram already was. YouTube has now generated their shorts when they were mostly long term. TikTok is and always will be short content. Right. Snapchat is as well. Like all of those are. And so nothing's really gearing younger kids towards something that's a long form
and a long-term goal,
mm-hmm.
And I think that can be an issue, is like when you are so focused on short-term content and like short-term satisfaction that we are not training our young people to work at a skill. Like even, I'll take my least favorite of the options that we talked about that you could do besides social media, gaming. Okay. Like, it's my least favorite one, but
below TikTok.
My least favorite one of, the ones that you can work at a bit more. TikTok, hate you, TikTok, screw you. Screw you, Chinese Communist Party as well. But with gaming, okay, like you said, you're working towards a goal, you're doing team building stuff, that's good. Okay, you're working on that goal. Now you take something like sports. Let me think of one. Okay, we can do a football or basketball. Again, team-oriented. You're working your body. Yeah. There's a lot of different components happening in that game. However, though, I will say there can always be too much of a good thing. Mm-hmm. And so that happens with video games, where you have video game addiction. There are some people that are so dedicated to sports that their lives just completely fall apart and they don't care about anything else. So again, there's certainly things that can go wrong with more long-term goals. But I feel like with social media and short-term content is that it's not really aiming towards any goal. There's no goal.
Yeah, it's just a mass grab of
right
as much information as you can get.
Right.
You just pull it in.
Right. And so if you gave me a choice, I'd be like, well, I would rather do the sport or the music or the reading and find a good, or the writing as well. Those are skills that you can cultivate. But the fact that we have so many young people wasting their time on a platform that cultivates absolutely no real skill is concerning. And the only skills that can be made from social media is how to keep people on social media. That's why we have social media.
How to be an influencer.
No, that's exactly it though. Like that's the only skill they can cultivate. It's like an inception, you know? And so it damages everyone else. And honestly, listen, we're the part of the problem too. Why? We create shorts. Our hope is that we grab you into our long-term content, because that's what we actually want.
Better than our shorts. Yeah,
our shorts, that's the thing that bothers me even about our shorts. I'm like, man, I really wish people would actually hear this entire sentence in context. I hope that part right there just gets made into a short. I hope that gets made into a short so that you can hear the rest of what I'm saying. But like, we do it too, but we want you to engage in the rest of our content that's hopefully, you know, somewhat useful.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing, is the intention. The intention may not always yield the result you're looking for. Our intentions for creating shorts is to give you a highlight of something that we want you to engage in, the larger portion or the larger picture of it.
Right.
That's probably why I hate TikTok so much, because each video is its entirety, unless you're one of those really annoying posters who do like, follow for part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. Just post on YouTube.
True.
But I mean, like that's all there is to it. So it is just purely to get you in for that video and to go to the next video.
Yeah.
And there's not much more outside of that. I can't remember what the length is on those videos, but probably 60 seconds or somewhere around
60 seconds.
That's all that they have you there for. So, but the thing is even though we're creating highlights to get people in more, it could just become part of their highlight reel where they're just going through all of them.
Oh no, it probably is.
It can feed into both.
It can.
But that's one of those things where it's like the intentions it's not always going to give you the results you want. I really need to find out if this is true or not. I just am concerned to go Googling anything about OnlyFans. But my understanding of OnlyFans is that it was originally for, you know, famous people, stars, to create like this backstage type content that people could subscribe to. Really cool idea. Not what it ended up being. No,
because now it's only purely associated with pornography. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you know.
So you're saying that intentions aren't enough.
And initially, Facebook was intended just to keep college students together who graduated. That's where Mark Zuckerberg developed it. It was for his college campus. It was just to keep them connected over the years. And then it was like, oh, well, we could do this on a wider scale for the internet, and people can stay in touch with friends and family, because, you know, people move around and they graduate and they go off to college, and this is a good way to keep up with people. And that is not what Facebook is anymore.
Right. It's more of a look what we did today, or promoting your brand, which we do. Yep. Or I guess just to a certain extent, some people, I don't even think they realize. For example, let me give an example. I think there's some people that genuinely do not realize what they are doing because it has been so ingrained into their daily life. Like, it is their life. Where, like, I know someone on my Facebook who's pregnant. I think it must just be second nature. She probably doesn't even think about posting about every couple of hours about being pregnant. Like, that's how bad it is, where it's like, and like, you're writing like a note to your child, all right, like the Instagram post or what, it's like a note to, like, dear baby Joe. And I think to myself, there was a day where you would just put that in a book for your kid, and what is necessarily the purpose of posting this for everyone else? Isn't this for your kid, or is it so that you can let everybody know? That's what
I've seen others where they create like a private page for the kid that has like no friends except for like their mom and dad. It's like, hey, when they're turned 16 and we can grant them, it's like, here you go. Now you've got years of content that we've been posting for you. And
that's the thing though, is that that's a good idea. I like that idea, but that's not what this is. No.
And this is right up there with people that are like, oh, I did this today. I had this coffee at this coffee shop. Or worse, I had this drink from Starbucks today. Just like the last 364 days, it's every other Starbucks.
Why would you post at the most generic coffee shop with the most generic cups doing the most generic thing? Like, again, I'm not trying to take away from people's lives or anything. I'm just saying that there are parts of your life that are fairly insignificant to the rest of us. And the fact that you feel like you need to, it tells us there's something that's being rewired in our brains, like to think now that it's second nature or almost first nature. That's what I'm scared of. It's first nature where I feel like I need to post about this before I actually talk to my friend about it, if that makes sense. Like if I want you to know I've had coffee with someone, Connor, guess what I'm going to do? Hey, Connor, guess who I had coffee with? Our mutual friend, Jane. Oh, Jane. We like Jane. And that's the conversation, right? So we've lost that personal element, because now something as beautiful as a pregnancy, as lovely as a pregnancy, has become so cheapened, because it's like, okay, great, you're just everyone, 2,000-3,000 people know about this, instead of this is something to be shared among our community. Like, if I got pregnant, I'd probably want to make like a little shared photo album so that you guys could look in the photo album if you wanted to see what my kid, because you're my friend and I really appreciate you. I wouldn't do that for 600, 700, 800 other people. I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no. And I think the need or the desire to do that really questions what's going on neurologically ever since the internet and even social media came in and became part of everybody's lives. And there's something to be said for the reason why all these creators, Microsoft, or Bill Gates with Microsoft, Steve Jobs with Apple, I think Zuckerberg is the same way. I want to say even Elon's the same way. It's like they're not letting their kids use technology. They don't give them video games. They don't give them TV. They don't give them computers. That should be a red
flag for us.
Yeah,
that
cell
should be
phones,
a massive
iPads,
red flag.
In fact, I remember reading about a bunch of them from the Silicon Valley that send their kids to a school that does not use any technology at all.
I was actually reading a study about technology, essentially, which this is not groundbreaking or anything. They're basically saying that technology doesn't work that well in the classroom, and it actually makes their memory retention worse because they're trying to do two things at one time. And they're being distracted, which happens to me too. I mean, again, you don't have to look at a study. All you have to do is even look at your own life and ask yourself, has my attention span increased or decreased? Mine has decreased. Yours has decreased. Doesn't really
And it was never great to begin with, so.
Double bad for Connor. But that's what I'm saying, is that there's a little bit, that's why I don't have a ton of studies up here, is because this is just common sense. This makes sense. Think about it. Just think about it. And that's all you have to do. And then you can come to a conclusion.
Yeah. There's I think the consequences of bringing in something as large and groundbreaking as the internet, and it being around for, decades at this point, we are not going to understand the consequences of what that does to have people wired into everybody and everything all the time around the world. There might be such a thing as there's just too much, and it may not be something that people can evolve or adapt to. And humans are great at adapting to things; they really are. And we build amazing things. We can go to all sorts of different places. Like, there are not that many animals that can exist in any climate, and it's like people can exist anywhere from a sweltering jungle at 100% humidity at 100 degrees. To, Antarctica, where it's below zero most of the time, and it's freezing cold. And it's like, people are amazing. But this, when it starts messing with the mind, and especially as we've seen elevated mental illness, right? We have a whole month for it now.
Apparently we had 2 months for it, actually.
Yeah, two different kinds. I think even if we were doing better, I think mental wellness could probably still be a thing.
Probably. I'd probably end up agreeing with that. And I think the takeaway that I actually see from our conversation is that good intentions go wrong. I feel like that's the thing. Good intentions can go wrong, and it's not just the intention that matters; it's the result. All right, it's the result, and that doesn't just apply to this topic. It applies to everything. It's like I understand. There's some people. I think there's some well-meaning liberals out there. I do. I really believe that. I believe they have great intentions. I don't like the result. And that matters. I also think there's some very well-intended conservatives out there, and the results are not good, and very disappointed. That's another topic. But I feel like I feel like I know we're gonna be continuing on with this idea of just wellness in general. We're gonna have someone on here next week that's gonna be talking to us about fitness. Also, I'm hopefully going to get her to actually talk about a very important topic that's now circulating the news, which is breast explants. And she has been sharing this story a lot, and we're hoping that she will share the story with us because I think it's very important, and it's something that's been happening pretty often. But definitely want to stay tuned for that. You can find this episode on YouTube. Find it on Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, basically anywhere where you can listen. If you have any thoughts on what we've said, agree or disagree, you can email us at residentskeptics@gmail.com, and we will hopefully respond to your comments on air because that would be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun. If anybody's tried any social media experience like I'm talking about, or experiments, and experienced different results, I would love to know what you've experienced or what you've done to retain memory, because I know I've talked around quite a few people, and a lot of people feel like their mental sharpness has dulled, and it's not just with age. Like I'm not old enough to be experiencing that too much, or the attention, just lack of attention.
Well, technically you are above 26 years old, and so your brain is now officially going downhill.
As I'm officially dying for the last 5 years.
Yep, that's how it goes. But yeah,
good times rolling.
Yeah.
Straight towards the grave. There we go.
Yay.
I mean, we're all headed there, so.
Well, we can always count on you, Connor, to be optimistic.
Always.
But I guess we'll see you guys next time. I think you're going to like the person we have next, so you're not going to want to miss it.